Let's look at the geospatial capabilities of SAP HANA Cloud. Hi, I'm Thain. Welcome to another SAP CodeTalk. I'm really pleased to have Mathias Kemeter with me. Mathias, thank you for joining me. And as you are a new person on CodeTalk, I'd like you to spend a few moments and introduce yourself to the CodeTalk audience.
Sure. Thanks, Ian, and also nice to meet you. So my name is Mathias. I'm the engineering manager for SAP HANA's multi-model engines. That is the graph engine, the geospatial engine, and the JSON document store. And recently, we've had some exciting enhancements with regards to HANA Spatial, which will make every GIS enthusiastic developer happy. And I think that's why we talk today.
Yeah, excellent. I mean, you mentioned a couple of buzzwords there. So I'm going to sort of start off level playing field for everybody. What is spatial data and how is it related to SAP HANA Cloud?
That's a good question for the intro. So for geospatial data, you typically differentiate between raster and vector data. This is very similar to image processing. We differentiate between raster images and vector images. So consequentially, if you look at spatial data, you have drone or satellite imagery, and that is considered spatial raster data since it is a rasterized image, right? Okay. Where each pixel in the image corresponds to a point on Earth. So the term spatial vector data essentially describes geometries, for example, points, polygons, line strings. These geometries may or may not be inferred from raster data. So, for example, if you think about a street on a satellite image, you could use image processing techniques to extract the street as a geometrical line string from the image. This is called raster to vector conversion. But you can also generate vector data, for example, by doing geocoding, so which is converting an address into a latitude and longitude, something which you've probably heard before. And now to your question, so how does that relate to SAP HANA? SAP HANA offers a built-in geospatial engine to persist and process geospatial vector data. So that's important. When we're talking about geospatial data today, we're not talking about raster data, we're not talking about drone imagery or something like that, but we're talking about vector data, about geometries. The engine in HANA offers more than 100 functions to do in-database geospatial operations and location analytics, like, for example, spatial clusterings. Most importantly, this is not a separate product or installation. So that engine comes with every HANA Cloud instance, with every HANA on-premise instance. Even if you have a HANA Cloud trial, you can just go ahead and use the spatial engine.
Yeah, actually, I was thinking before our code talk, I was sort of thinking about geospatial and HANA, and then I'm thinking that as soon as you described that about vector, raster, and the amount of data, no wonder it's sitting in HANA. HANA is fantastic at all of this, huge amounts of data, analytical stuff. But want to get back onto the subject, so taking us on a slight tangent there. So is SAP a vendor for geographic information systems, or how do we fit with that?
No, in fact, we're absolutely not a vendor for GIS systems. We are, as a company, and also we as a team, we're looking at this topic very much from an integration point of view. So my team has the mission to provide a technology foundation as part of the business technology platform, which enables customers to integrate the existing GIS platform with their business processes that are typically covered by SAP software, right? Ultimately, we want to make these business processes location aware or location intelligent, you can say. The advantage of building that location intelligence as part of the underlying platform is that the generated insights can be leveraged by any application running on this platform. This may be GIS expert software, this may be S4, this may be analytics applications, such as SAP Analytics Cloud, or even custom applications. All applications that you have that transparently looking at the same data without the need of replication and batch data exchange between different departments, like between the business and the GIS department. So back to your question, no, we're not a GIS company, but we see a huge potential in actually integrating the SAP ecosystem with the GIS software of our clients.
Okay, you mentioned integration there, so I'm going to go down the integration route here. So how does that integration actually manifest itself?
Yeah, we look at that integration topic from 3 dimensions, I would say. So we're looking at the SAP ecosystem, the GIS ecosystem, and the developer ecosystem. And this is what we somehow try to get together on one platform. If you look at it technically, this boils down to the following. So if you first look into the SAP direction, the ABAP DDIC, the data dictionary, already supports HANA's ST geometry type. With the next release of HANA, we actually plan to have that integration even tighter and to have an even more transparent integration into the DDIC. Also, SAP Analytics Cloud offers support for integrating geospatial data from HANA so that dashboards can be enhanced by maps or geospatial analytics. SAP HANA as such is certified by Esri. Esri is the de facto leader in commercial GIS software. Esri supports SAP HANA as an enterprise geodatabase, which enables GIS departments to lift the benefit to transparently access all business data in HANA. To integrate Esri with S4, for example, SAP also offers the Geographical Enablement Framework, the GEF, to link SAP business objects on the one side to Esri location data on the other side. Mm-hmm. On the developer front, we have just released support for spatial data type, for the spatial data type as part of the SAP HANA machine learning client for Python, if you've heard that before. Mm-hmm. So that integration makes it super easy to push down spatial workload to HANA and to consume the results, for example, with GeoPandas or other well-known Python libraries for visualization and further processing. Mm. And last but not least, to me personally, very important, there is a very strong and mature ecosystem around open source GIS software. So where we in the past did contributions to add HANA spatial support to certain software packages.
Okay, I mean, actually, you mentioned Esri there, and I remember as part of other stuff that I do for the developer relations team, I've sort of got involved with coding competitions and hackathons. And I remember actually recently, probably, oh, time flies by so quickly now, doesn't it? Maybe a year plus ago, we actually did something with Esri on their hack. I'm pretty certain that's right.
I think I remember that. I think it was before that whole Corona thing started.
Yeah, definitely there. I want to take us back to the last thing you mentioned there, which was open source. So how does all of this work with the open source software contributions?
So honestly, I don't know. So
it's magic.
It's not magic, but we're learning while doing it. So open source communities are sometimes not especially keen on integration with proprietary vendors, okay, at least as per our experience. So of course, we want to contribute the code ourselves, but ongoing maintenance of these contributions is typically a point for discussion. So what we try to do as a team, where we try to engage with the communities and build up trust in us as a team or in us as a company. I personally can tell that it's oftentimes easier to work with companies where decisions are made top down. So with communities, it's way more effort for a discussion. But of course, on the other hand side, these discussions are very productive in many cases. So in the past, we have added contributions to Deviver. So that's a database management studio that offers excellent support for spatial data. And I would argue, if you're a database developer working with spatial data, that tool is a must-have. Okay. Also, we contributed to GeoServer. So we added a HANA community plugin there. GeoServer is essentially a middleware which connects to SAP HANA on the one side and provides the geospatial data in a variety of standardized web service formats. This can, for example, be used to integrate custom maps into your applications. And just recently, at the beginning of this year, we contributed SAP HANA support to QGIS. So QGIS is a very well-known open source GIS client, which is available for almost any platform.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, it sounds really interesting, really super, but I wonder whether it's super complex. You mentioned right at the start of our conversation, that there are obviously with the SAP HANA and HANA Cloud, the engine being in there, that maybe I'm thinking maybe some companies have the data already, but if I wanted to learn, do I have the data to try it? And how do I try out all of this fantastic stuff?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. It sounds complex, but the good thing is many of the complex or many large parts of the complexity is actually reduced by using the right tooling, right? So first and foremost, I do think that each and every company has geospatial data. Like if you think of city names or addresses, this is all geospatial data once you apply geocoding to it and generated latitudes and longitudes from the data. So ignoring that location information, in my opinion, is equally naive as ignoring the time dimension in your data. So think, for example, about a sales report or something different, just some standard reports without the time dimension. No one would do that, right? But oftentimes you see that the location dimension gets neglected because it seems complex. So using the right software, first and foremost, of course, HANA's Geospatial engine, that's why I'm here, right? Reduces that complexity, and actually it takes off the burden of computational geometry off your shoulders. So that's all handled by the engine. Still, you need to know some specifics. You need to know your way around some pitfalls. But I do think that the resources that you find online, also on the SAP community pages, can help with that. So just for example, did you know that using QGIS, you can actually import geospatial data set into SAP HANA by just using drag and drop? So it's just a matter of seconds. You can open a file that you find online, for example, so that there are many portals where you can download open GIS data, like, for example, OpenStreetMap, and you can import it using drag and drop. In fact, I recently published a blog that gets you up to speed with a test system in just about 30 minutes. 30 minutes, so don't be too exact if it takes you 1 hour, but in a very short amount of time. So that blog is listed as part of a resource blog where I regularly list community updates around SAP HANA Spatial. So if there's any community content, I list it in that blog. And I would strongly recommend to check this out and find some inspiration for your next dev project. I think you can just get set up in 30 minutes to 1 hour. And if that's okay, if you can add the link maybe below the video, everyone.
Yeah, sure, we'll do that. That's perfect. That's great.
Great,
lovely. Matthias, you have honestly got me thinking of some stuff, especially as you say, it's quite easy to do drag and drop and then sort of go from there. So I would love to have you back in the future. This is just a taster of geospatial capabilities with SAP HANA Cloud, and let's get you back in the future.
I would also be happy to talk about the other multimodal engines. Like I mentioned in the beginning, we also have the graph engine, which makes it very interesting to combine graphs with spatial data and talk about, for example, street networks and do analysis there.
You've let yourself in for something there, Matthias. Thank you very much for joining me, and have a great day.
Thank you very much, Ian. Have a good day.